Next tonight, an investigation into the Hillsborough disaster has found that 12 police officers should have faced gross misconduct proceedings for fundamental failures on the day and concerted efforts to blame fans in the aftermath. 97 people died when a crash happened at the Liverpool supporters' end during an FA Cup semi-final at Sheffield Wednesday's ground in April 1989. Immediate blame was directed at Liverpool fans, with the misleading briefings from South Yorkshire Police shaping media coverage. The police watchdog has spent more than 13 years examining the actions of South Yorkshire Police and other forces in the aftermath. Its inquiry, along with the criminal inquiry into Hillsborough, has cost a total of £150 million. Well, today it said the victims, the families and survivors had been repeatedly let down. It named 12 police officers who would have had cases to answer for gross misconduct if they were still serving, including the then South Yorkshire Chief Constable Peter Wright and Match Commander David Duckenfield, as well as Sir Norman Betterson. In response today, campaigners described that as another bitter injustice. Well, our reporter Mark Ansell is outside Hillsborough Stadium for us tonight. Mark, families have waited a very long time for this day, haven't they?
Absolutely, Phil. It's taken 13 years for this report by the police watchdog to be published, and it's damning about the actions of South Yorkshire Police. It highlights complacency before the FA Cup fixture, a series of failings on the day, and a concerted effort to blame the Liverpool fans afterwards. My colleague Kathy Killick has been looking back at how we got to today, 36 years on from the Hillsborough disaster.
The immediate aftermath of the Hillsborough disaster saw a judicial inquiry and inquests, but the coroner only accepts evidence within a narrow time window. He records verdicts of accidental death. The inquiry blames a lack of police control and dismisses claims that fans were to blame. In 2000, the bereaved families bring private prosecutions against the police officer in charge on the day, David Duckenfield, and the ground controller. There are no convictions. In 2012, the Hillsborough Independent Panel, chaired by the then Bishop of Liverpool, criticises the emergency response and says some fans could have been saved. It leads to a formal apology.
On behalf of the government, and indeed our country, I am profoundly sorry that this double injustice has been left uncorrected for so long.
A year later, 2 fresh criminal investigations are launched, and the Independent Office for Police Conduct starts its own investigation. New inquest lasting 2 years finds that those who died were unlawfully killed. The families respond with singing outside the court. Getting to these verdicts has taken 27 years. In 2019, criminal trials finally come to court, but one collapses, one acquits David Duckenfield, and one fines a club official £6,500 for a health and safety offence. And that leads us to today, in an era of promised transparency, but no police officer sanctioned or convicted. Can this satisfy the Hillsborough family's long wait for justice? They will judge. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North.
Well, the investigation found that 12 police officers, 10 from South Yorkshire, would have faced gross misconduct hearings if they were still serving. They include the then Chief Constable of South Yorkshire Police, Peter Wright, Match Commander David Duckenfield, and Sir Norman Betterson, who went on to become the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police. Now, the law at the time means that no officers will face disciplinary action because they had all retired by the time this investigation started 12 years ago.
Mark, what's been the response today then?
Well, families of the 97 Liverpool fans have been given their reaction, and many say that while they feel vindicated in their fight, they don't feel they have been given justice because no police officer will be held account for what happened at Hillsborough.
This cannot happen again, and we need sanctions in place to ensure that happens. But it's been a long, difficult road.
It really makes you very, very angry when you think of all of those 97 who died unlawfully killed, and yet not one person's being held to account. To me, that's a disgrace.
The IOPC has concluded that Norman Bettison would be liable for charges of gross misconduct had he have still been a serving officer today. And on that basis, we have emailed the Forfeiture Committee and asked them to remove Norman Bettison's knighthood and his Queen's Policing Medal. We believe that his alleged dishonesty brings both of these honours into disrepute.
The Independent Office for Police Conduct has said the victims, the families and the survivors have all been repeatedly let down.
We are very, very clear that South Yorkshire Police adopted a defensive approach to the inquiries that followed the disaster. That included a range of allegations about van behaviour that have been repeatedly disproven and have caused enormous distress. We also looked at the West Midlands Police investigation. They were charged with investigating South Yorkshire Police and the disaster, and we found that investigation to be wholly unsatisfactory, inexplicably narrow and potentially biased in favour of the police.
So what Mark of South Yorkshire Police had to say about all this today?
Well, Phil, they declined to be interviewed. In a statement, the current Chief Constable Lauren Poultney said, "I fully accept the IOPC report, which highlights a litany of failures, and am so deeply sorry for the pain and heartache caused. The report is clear in that people attended a football match in Sheffield and therefore they were in our care. The force failed them and also failed their loved ones in the days, months and years after. This will always be a point of deep regret and shame for South Yorkshire Police." Back to you, Phil.
Okay, Mark Ansell live in Sheffield, thank you very much for that.